Neighbors on Maplewood Drive had long whispered about Old Man John's blue sedan. It sat in his front yard, a rusted relic with a shattered windshield and fender peeling like sunburnt skin. For years, no one could recall seeing it move. Its owner, John Harrison, was the oldest resident on the block, a widower who rarely ventured beyond his weathered porch. Everyone knew his name but little else. The rumor mill suggested he'd once owned a thriving business, that his wife had passed some years back, and that John simply couldn't bear to leave behind their shared memories, including that battered car. By early spring, the rancor had reached its peak. Maplewood Drive was nothing if not pristine. Proud homeowners tended lawns with Swiss watch precision. Daffodils bloomed at exact grid lines, and freshly painted shutters gleamed in the afternoon sun. In this sanctuary of suburban order, John's rust bucket was an affront. 3 neighbors in particular, Martin, Stephen, and David, convened during evening barbecues to plot its removal. They wrote to the Homeowners Association. They petitioned the town council. They even discussed clandestine measures, convinced that John was hiding something in that car. One moonless night, emboldened by cheap beer and communal resentment, the trio decided on drastic action. They would borrow a tow truck under the guise of a friend's moving sail and spirit the car away. If John discovered it missing, they'd feign ignorance. No one would suspect 3 respectable dads. They rattled off the plan in casual tones. Park the tow rig behind the hedge. Wait for John's lights to go out. Hook the car's frame. Drive it to the scrapyard down Route 22. Quickly and quietly. Problem solved. They checked their watches at 11, donned gloves and hoodies, and slipped into the dark. As they approached John's property, adrenaline sharpened their senses. The street was deserted. A single street lamp cast a pale circle of light on the pavement. Martin backed the tow truck to the curb while David and Stefan prepared the hooks. Without a sound, they would snatch the car. But when Martin threw the truck into gear and tugged the tow lever, the car refused to budge. He tried again. No lurch, no clank. Strange, he thought. Rust should have made it easier to break loose. It's stuck, he muttered. What do you mean, stuck? Stefan hissed, creeping around the car. David, flicking his flashlight beneath the chassis, froze. Guys, you've got to see this. Below the car, between 2 corroded steel beams, pulsed a soft rhythmic hum. A pale bluish glow spilled onto the grass. The 3 men shared a look of disbelief. They'd never expected, whatever it was, they'd deal with it later. First, they needed to know what was making that noise. Stefan swallowed hard. Should we call John or the police? David shook his head. Not yet. He clicked off his flashlight and squatted at the rim of the car's undercarriage. Martin watched, heart hammering, as David braced himself and slipped his head beneath. A low electronic whir was emanating from somewhere deep inside. It sounded almost mechanical, not organic. Martin's skin prickled. If they woke John now, they'd be caught. Yet the longer they stood there, the more convinced they became that John's inflexibility about moving the car concealed something extraordinary. Finally, David twisted free. There's a door, he whispered, voice trembling with awe. A hatch in the car floor. It's hinged, and I can't believe this. All right, Martin said quietly, hands trembling despite the spring air. We need to retreat. We'll wait until morning and ask him straight up. But David wasn't listening. He'd already dropped to his knees again, working a pry bar between the car's floor and a rectangular cover plate. With a grunt of effort, he levered it free. The glowing light intensified, bathing them in cold luminescence. A hush descended, only the sound of a gentle hum, punctuated by distant crickets. Martin considered running for it, but something held him rooted to the spot. Stefan shined his flashlight down the opening and let out a strangled gasp. Through the hatch yawned a narrow passage, reinforced with riveted steel panels. At the bottom, a ladder led downward into darkness. From below, the mechanical hum resonated like the heartbeat of some secret machine. "What is that?" Stefan managed. David swallowed. There's a light at the bottom, and it looks like—" He trailed off, face paling. Martin snapped his head toward him. "It looks like what? Say it." "I don't know. Something big. I think someone's been living down there." This was no longer about an eyesore car. The revelation sent a chill through all three. They realized that John had more reason than mere sentiment to keep the car in place. It concealed the entrance to a hidden underground space. Before they could debate further, the hatch creaked. A voice called from below, calm, measured, but firm. "I know you're there." The three men froze. At that moment, house lights flicked on. A door clicked open upstairs. "Who's out there?" came John's voice, surprisingly strong for a man his age. It echoed off the hood of the car, authoritative and unafraid. Heart pounding, Martin rose. "John," he stammered, we were going to move your car. We didn't know." "Stand back," John said. He appeared at the hatch's edge, lantern in hand. The yellow beam illuminated wisps of dust. "You have no idea what you're meddling with." David's throat went dry. "What is this place, John? Why have you kept it secret?" The other two fathers glanced at each other, suddenly consumed with guilt and fear. John sighed, lowering the lantern to his side. "Maybe it's time you all knew the truth." He backed away and securely latched the hatch behind him. For a moment, the humming halted, as though his departure had silenced it. Then, distant clanking resumed. Martin set his jaw. "Tell us, we were wrong to try this." John studied them in the lantern's glow, Martin's grim expression, Stefan's wide eyes, David's shaking hands. Finally, he nodded. "All right, come inside." He walked to the driveway gate, unlocked it, and gestured. "Step through." The trio hesitated, but curiosity overcame caution. They followed him across the gravel. John's house stood larger than it appeared from the street, a two-story brick colonial, with high windows and intricate trim. He led them to a side door they'd never seen before, its paint fresh compared to the weathered siding. It swung open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into the earth. As they followed him down, the hum grew louder. It had depth like turbines or water pumping through vast pipes. Their shoes echoed on concrete steps. At the bottom, they entered a vast subterranean chamber that stretched into shadows beyond their lantern's reach. The room was a marvel of engineering. Piping ran along the walls, converging on a massive cylindrical tank humming with energy. Gauges flickered and valves hissed. Rows of glass-fronted cabinets held rows of vials, herbs, and arcane instruments. At the center, a long stainless steel table bore open notebooks filled with cramped, meticulous, handwriting chemical formulas, diagrams, patient charts, boxes stamped with labels, volunteer samples, and "Clinical Trial in Progress" lined one wall. Martin swallowed. This is a lab," John nodded. "I was a research scientist before I retired. My wife and I dreamed of making a difference, developing treatments for diseases we saw destroy families. When she passed, I couldn't leave this place, our home. I converted the basement into a private research facility, but interest waned, grants dried up, and I couldn't risk interference." Stefan ran a hand through his hair. "You've been working here alone for years?" John's eyes creased. "Yes. I've developed several medicines in secret potent compounds that show promise against certain cancers and viral infections. But if Big Pharma got wind of my results, they'd patent them, price them out of reach, and hide them from those who need them. I refuse to let that happen." David swallowed. "So you keep the car because it hides the entrance? Everyone thinks it's junk, so no one bothers it." John managed a sad smile. "Exactly. The neighbors' complaints never cease, but they don't know what truly matters down here." The three men exchanged stunned glances. Their annoyance at an old car had blinded them to a cause far greater than yard-long pride of ownership. The hum, the light, the sterile equipment, they had been too short-sighted to see John's noble purpose. Martin's voice wavered. "We're sorry, John. We were planning to tow your car to the scrapyard. We didn't know." John's gaze softened. "Perhaps I should have told someone sooner. I feared secrecy was the only way to guard my work. But now, now I've been discovered." He turned a dial on the tank, and the humming subsided to a gentle purr. "I'm older now. I can't do this alone much longer. My health isn't what it was." Stefan stepped forward. "Maybe we can help. We've been lousy neighbors, but if you'll have us, we'd like to assist. We can keep watch, handle deliveries, help with administration, whatever you need." David nodded vigorously. "And we can talk to the others, explain why the car is there. I'm sure they'd support you once they understood." John studied them, silent for a long minute. Then he reached out and clasped Martin's hand. "I would like that very much." He turned and led them to the long table. "Here are my research logs. I want you to read them. But for now, let's secure this hatch, shall we?" Up the stairs they went, locking the side door behind them. In the driveway, the blue sedan glowed softly under the street lamp. Never had a junk car seemed so precious. Over the following weeks, the trio introduced John's secret to a trusted circle of neighbors. The disbelief turned to admiration, then to collective resolve. The car would remain. Some neighbors even volunteered to help maintain the yard around it. Slowly but surely, the sense of resentment melted into pride. A new chapter began on Maplewood Drivea community, united not by perfection, but by compassion for the old man whose rusted car hid the promise of hope for countless others.